Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Ira Bowman. I am the founder, owner, I don't know, janitor of Bowman Digital Media, and I am hoping you are having a great start to your week. I did something I haven't been doing much of early. I went for a long walk out in the hills, the California hills, so that was kind of fun. But today I thought, what am I going to do on my show? I want to I want to help those of you who are using Canva, or maybe you're new with Photoshop or Illustrator, to kind of take your graphic designs and elevate them. I was able in 11 months to invoice over $100,000 using the tools and techniques that I'm going to teach you today. So, hopefully this will help you guys do some of the same things. We help each other out around here. That's the whole point of this show. So today we're going to talk about graphic design. I want to emphasize some of the things that helped me when I was learning, and things that I still use to this day. But some of the tools that I use primarily to help elevate the graphics in Photoshop. It's all about the mask. There's really two types of design in Photoshop. There's destructive and non-destructive. When I learned how to use Photoshop, I taught myself how to use Photoshop. I didn't know about non-destructive design. I stumbled upon, the eraser. So I didn't learn how to mask. So the moment I learned how to mask, it was like a game changer. So we're going to go over masking today. I'm going to show you real world practice. We're going to open up real photographs and do real design work today. So I'm going to show you how I use the mask and how that can help you elevate your game. I am kind of known for my style is hybrid color. And I'm going to show you how I do hybrid color. I'll explain what it is and show you how I do it. Also, we're going to get into Illustrator. And with Illustrator, really, it's about the shape builder tool and the curve tool. If you know how to use the shape builder tool in Illustrator and the curvature tool in Illustrator, you can do just about anything. There's nothing that you can't create. So like if someone would give me a drawing, any drawing, I can recreate it in Photoshop and Illustrator with these tools. And so that's ultimately what you're trying to do, is create stuff. Now, Illustrator, we're creating vector files. What's the advantage to vector in the print space? Vector files are extremely important because I can take something that was designed as like a 1 inch by 1 inch design, and I can make it as large as I want. So there's no pixelation when I'm going larger, as long as I'm using the AI file, a vector format, not a raster like JPEG or PNG or anything that's based on dots. If you're not familiar with the difference between raster and vector, it's really simple. Your screen is a series of dots. The dots are either on or they're off, and when they're on, they're a variety of colors, but they're dots and they fill in. So a raster image, as you enlarge it, those dots all get bigger, but also what gets bigger is the space between the dots. And that's what you see as pixelation. Or for those of you who aren't familiar with any of that terminology, it's what makes it fuzzy or blurry. Okay. When you have a vector file, the vector file is not a series of dots. What it is actually is a series of equations. So you have an outline, and then everything in is either filled or not filled. And it doesn't matter. I could take, something that was designed as a 1/2 inch and spread it out and make it now 36 inches. And as long as that fill is set correctly, it'll fill it in uniformly, completely. And that's the main difference between raster and vector. So when we're designing in vector format, we just, that's the advantage. So that's why most graphic designers prefer a vector style program like Illustrator over a Photoshop, because Photoshop really is a raster format. So hello, Lourdes. Lourdes is coming from Mexico. Welcome. Buenos dias to you there in Mexico. We're happy to have you here. If you have any questions about design, that's what we're going to be teaching today. So without further ado, I'm going to do a lot of teaching today. Okay, so if you have questions, what I'm going to do my best to keep up with the questions, but I'm going to show my screen, and then we're going to get into the lesson, and then I'll review for questions after each lesson. So as I'm showing you something, if you want to have me see it, I might not see the question right away like I normally do, but I will come back to it and answer that question. So first up, we're going to start with, if you don't mind, let's start with the Photoshop pieces, because that's typically how I will do things. So typically my order of operations is I'll go from the camera if I'm taking a picture, which I'm going to show you some of the pictures that I've taken today because we're going to work with them. But so I'll start with the photograph capture itself. So capture the image. Okay. Then what do? Then I actually go into, it sounds kind of weird, but I shoot in RAW. So what I do is I have to import everything into Lightroom. So once I import it into, when I import it into Lightroom, now I can actually see the photographs really for the first time on the computer. I can see them. I have a Canon 90D, so I have a digital display, so I can see them as I take them, and I can go through them, if it's on my memory card. But once I put it in the computer, I have to import them into Lightroom. So I go into Lightroom and I do my work in Lightroom. What do I do in Lightroom? I reset the white balance. I might change the texture. I crop for, if I want to do the rule of thirds, like here, I can show you that real quick. So I'm going to show you rule of thirds in Photoshop here, just because we're not going to have a Lightroom session today, unless a bunch of you guys really want to see it. Then I can do that. Okay, so let me move all this out of the way. Okay, so in Photoshop, the very first thing that I would do is I would go and open. Well, let's start from scratch. So typically when I set my photographs for social media, I'm going to set it 6" by 4" 300 dpi. That's typically what I do. There's all kinds of different sizes that I use for all kinds of different reasons, but this is a 3x5 or 6x4. That's a traditional picture size in the old school, like when you would go and get them printed. So anyways, that's what I'm gonna do. So there it is, right? I just started. Now it's got a background and it's locked. I can undo that. I can turn the background off. Okay, so when you see this in Photoshop, this just represents that it's transparent or clear. Okay. Now, the very first thing that I would do now is I'm going to go grab the picture. So the pictures that I'm going to use today, I'm actually going to show you guys how to do some masking. So I'm going to go, I was in Las Vegas in May, and I already pre-selected some photos that I think look good. So I want to use this one. This is the one that I put in the comments. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to teach you how to mask, and then I'm going to teach you how to do hybrid color kind of at the same time. So the very first thing that you want to do when you're setting up a picture is you want to kind of figure out the rule of thirds here for setup. So I don't want to do that. I just stretched the picture out. So I'm going to undo it. I want to make sure that this is locked, which it is. So I don't know why I did that actually. Okay. So now I lost a little bit, as you can see, the top and the bottom, but that's okay. Now what I want to do is I want to come and adjust it for the rule of thirds. Always want to do that first before you do any work, because there's no sense in doing the work and then figuring out you're going to crop it off. But I had already pretty much set it up before, so it's pretty close. But what I want to do, okay, the rule of thirds, you drop a line a third of the way down and 2/3 of the way down, and then a third of the way down and 2/3 of the way down. These points where it intersects, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever is the main emphasis for your photo, that's what you want to have in the crosshair. Okay. And it doesn't really matter which. In this case, it's his eye. Okay. But as you can see, I'm losing a little bit more of the photo, and that's okay. I'm totally cool with that. Now, sometimes, like you see this extra space over here, you could go, well, you might want to crop that over, and that's okay. You could do that, and I could focus on his other eye or maybe the bridge of his nose, right? And that's okay. Anywhere in there, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good anywhere in there. Okay. Now, because I do commercial work, I have to do something a little bit different than most people. Most people, they're just going to edit this photo and they're not going to do anything else with it. It's just the photo itself. Okay. And this is perfect. But what I'm doing in commercial design now, and I'm going to make myself just a little bit bigger so you can see my face. Okay. So in commercial design, I also want to put my logo. I'm either going to put it here or here or here or here. And then there's this thing called balance. So right now the action is weighing, everything's weighing over to the left. So for me, the obvious choice is actually to put my logo right here up in this corner to help balance it out. Okay. So that's kind of some of the thought processes that I go through. And I hope that helps you guys understand and improve if you are looking to improve your design skills. Hello, June. Good afternoon. How is it today in Texas? I hope it's not too hot yet. Okay, so what I'm going to do now that I've got it set up rule of thirds, okay, it's set up rule of thirds. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a mask. I'm going to show you how to do a mask layer now, okay? Now for a mask layer, what is a mask? Let's just start with that. What is a mask? So you really, well, I could do it with this because I do have a base layer. Well, that wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so typically what happens, although I'll show you this. Okay, so first thing for mask, let me make my screen bigger again so you guys can see the screen bigger. Come down here to the bottom. So you have your layer chosen. You want to come down here. So you've got a link where I could link layers. I've only got one layer chosen, so that's why it won't let me do that right now. But if I chose both and just hold down the shift key, now I could link these layers together. There's no reason to do that, but that's what I could do that. Okay. And then there's the FX, and then there's this one. Okay. So if I want to do FX, and it's just saying, okay, well, what do you want to do? I want to bevel emboss, inner shadow, inner glow. So you can do all kinds of stuff with this if you really want to. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do right now is this one. It's called Add Layer Mask. It's a mask layer. What do you do? Okay. I used to think about this totally wrong, and so it confused me. So I'm going to try to explain it in a way that will help you the most. Basically, with the mask layer, what we're doing is we're saying whatever's on the top layer, which is where we have our mask, if we cover any of that up, which is what confused me, you'll be able to see what's underneath. So now the way I like to think of it is actually I'm creating a hole. When you create the hole, you can only use two color options on a mask. You can use black or white. If you paint it black, whatever you paint black on the mask will hide that part of the top layer or the layer that you're masking and show you directly what's underneath. So for example, right now, his gloves are green. If I mask up his gloves, they will turn white only because the layer underneath is white. And I actually have to turn that on for you to see it. But that's what I'm going to do right now. Then I'm going to undo it and show you how I really use this stuff. But this is just all by way of introduction, okay? So I just zoomed in. I just did Control Plus to zoom in. Okay, so now see I don't know if you guys can see that. Might be too small because it says size 6. I'm going to make it bigger. Okay, so now that's size 88. Okay, so size 88, I'm going to clip it. And actually, for some reason, it's not set very hard, so I've got to do it. I'm just going to turn it all the way up so I don't have to do it more than once. Okay, so now what I'm seeing is underneath. Now, if I turn that mask layer off, you can see the whole thing is white. And so that's what it's doing, is just showing me what's underneath. Now, if I turn the bottom layer off, now it's showing me just the transparency, which if I saved it as a JPEG would still be white. But if I saved that as a PNG, you actually would, if I overlaid that PNG over the top of something else, I would see what was underneath it. Now, I would never do just that. That's silly. There's no reason to do that. But, you know, if I'm going to do something like this, and then I can change the size of the mask, and I can outline. And if you go, Ira, you messed up. You hit too much there. And I did. And I actually kind of did it on purpose. Here's what I want to show you. The difference between the eraser and the mask, destructive and non-destructive, is what happens if you make a mistake, really. That's the main thing. If I change this to white and come back, I can actually recreate it. And that's the difference. I haven't destroyed the data. The data is all still there. Okay? I can fill it back in. No harm, no foul. So we use masks and not the eraser because it saves the data for any future changes. You know, sometimes you're doing work and you think it looks good, and then the client or whoever's supervising the job says, I don't like that. I want you to fill that back in. If you had used the eraser tool to do that, you would have to redo all your work. When you use a mask, in that case, you would just have to go and repaint it black or white, depending on what you were doing, filling or removing some of the mask. Okay. So what do I do with that? Well, in reality, what I would do, let's just do it again. Let's just put something underneath. And so you can kind of see it. Okay. So if I want to place something else, like here's one I did for him the other day, place that between. Now I can see him between it. Now that kind of looks ridiculous because it's a boxing glove and I'm seeing his face. So I don't necessarily want to do that. But if there was something I did want to see, let's zoom this out a little bit. Like my logo, just to be funny. Right? So I could move that around. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can actually take this whole thing, change the transparency. So now I can see what I'm doing. I can actually grab this layer and I could move it around. Actually, I'm moving the wrong layer. Sorry. I could. Oops, hang on. Let me fix this. I can get off topic really, really quickly. Okay. So there's the hole. I want to grab that guy. Let's turn this guy back down. It's funny what I'll do for an object lesson. Okay. And just put that right there in the middle and then turn him back up. There you go. And you can see the logo through. I don't know why I would want to do that, but if I did, there I did it. Okay. So let me start all over. I'm going to delete the guy underneath. I'm going to delete this. Now to delete a mask, it removes the mask. So then what did I do? I have to start all over again. Okay. But that's okay. Let me show you another thing too, because you guys may or may not know this. So I'm going to do duplicate layer. This is just making a second layer. I do this all the time. So when I'm going to do a hybrid color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the top layer color and I'm going to turn the bottom layer black and white. So the way I do that is with hue saturation. You just turn the saturation down and there you go. But sometimes it's still a little bit too dark. So then I'll turn the lightness up. So you can do whatever you want here. And then another trick, if you want to know just another way to do that, you can actually make another layer. So there's another layer on top and I can do a box. Make sure my fill is white and then come here. So now it's an overlay and then change the transparency. So if I wanted like 10% or 15%, so I can lighten it up a couple different ways. There's a lot of different ways to do the same thing in Photoshop. So anyways, okay. So now that I've got that set up, now watch, I'm going to turn this on. Okay. I'm going to set my mask layer. So, oops, I put the mask layer on the wrong thing. I put the mask layer on the rectangle, which I didn't even really need. Okay. So there's my mask layer. Okay. So now anything that I cover up in black, I'm going to see below to the layer below. I've got exact same photo on top of each other. So I've got the bottom layer in black and white now, and I've got the top layer in color, and then I have a middle layer in between, which is just to lighten up the picture, which I didn't have to do it that way. Okay. So hopefully you guys are able to follow me. Now you got to paint on a mask layer. So I've got the mask layer selected. I'm going to paint. You paint with black ink to hide what you don't want to see on the layer, on the mask, right? So you're revealing or creating a hole, if you will. to see below. So I'm going to take everybody that isn't these two guys, everything that isn't these two guys, and turn it into black and white. It's like magic. So what I typically do is I do broad strokes first. There's different schools of thought on this, but I typically just do quick outlines. And again, with a mask, it's not really even that big a deal. This is more important. When I was doing destructive with the eraser, this was much more important. And you would have to remember to let go a lot, because if you made a mistake, you didn't want to start all over. Okay, but anyway, so this is the broad strokes. Okay, then and again, if I overhit, it's not a big deal because I can come fix it. But I'm going to do that when I'm zoomed in. Okay, so I went too far on purpose there. Not really. Just bump my hand and it happens. So, okay. But I can fix it. Okay, so that's all good. So now what I want to do, I want to hit Control and the plus button and zoom in. Now I'm going to reduce the size of the paintbrush down to something a little smaller. And then I'm going to start, tidying this up. Now, if you hold the space bar down, then you can just drag, okay? And you can do that on Illustrator as well as Photoshop. When I first started doing this, to do a whole picture like this would take me about an hour. Now to do it, well, it depends. But to do most of these types of photos, well, as you can see, I can get through them pretty quick. It depends a little bit on what you're going to do with them too. So like how much, like for example, am I going to clean up right there? Because I'm a perfectionist, I do. So I'm just going to show you how I normally do it. Because that's what this is about, right? Lessons. But I know a lot of people who wouldn't even do this inside layer. They would just be like, nah, I'm not worried about that. Because the only person who's really going to notice that is me. Honestly, there's not too many people who will notice all that. Okay, so now I've really made my dot too small to do that. So I'm going to blow it back up again. And I don't know if you guys can tell from your screen, but I actually hit his shirt a little bit. And so again, this is an example. I can just switch to white ink, come on the inside, and retrace it. And now wherever I erased by accident, like right here, I can refill in. No problem, because it's not erased. It's just hidden. It's masked. And that's the main difference. So do you guys have any questions about mask layers as I'm go ahead and clean this up? Because I want to, when this is done, I'm actually going to post this in the comments so you guys can see it. One thing I have chosen to do, elected to do, is, I don't know if you guys can tell or not, but like with spiked hair, and that's one of the things, like when I'm doing mask up work, and the hair is almost always the hardest part. So what I've elected to do, as long as it's not high contrast, is I just clip and go black and white in this case with the, with the black and white, what I call the hybrid photos. It's a style choice, but I've elected to clip it and put it in the black and white, as long as it's not like a red, if it's red hair or it's blonde hair and they're in front of something that's really dark, that can stand out. So then I'll do it the opposite way. But that honestly will take a ton of time. So you have to decide if you really think that it's worth it to do all that, because you can go from an hour project to a 20-hour project because of hair. It's long hair. It has nothing to do with male or female. It's just long hair. So when you have long hair, on high contrast long hair, then that's where you can really get in the weeds. as far as doing one of these projects. But the nice thing about these fighters is a lot of them have short hair, no hair, or tied back hair, right? So that helps. But doing this will take the photo quality through the roof when it's done. So again, I hope this is not too boring. I don't know if it is or not. I don't know if anybody is interested in my lessons here, but this is the life of a designer, right? So if you're going to be a designer, you're going to need to know how to mask. You're going to need to know how to use the shape builder tool, how to use the pen curvature tools, because pretty much everything you're going to create is going to be from, you're going to use one of those tools. Almost every project. I use at least one of these tools every project. Okay. So we're getting pretty close here to done. Oops. Again, got to make sure you're using the right color, Ira. We're getting closer here, guys. For those of you who are losing patience on a mask, and I'm sure there's some of you who have already left. That's okay. It happens. But this is how I spend a lot of my time. A lot of my time is spent doing this. Zoomed in on a photograph and making mask layers. And when I'm not doing that, I'll show you the next thing I'm doing. In either Photoshop, because you can use the curvature tool in Photoshop or Illustrator. It actually works in both. Works a little bit different. There are subtle differences between the curvature tool here in Photoshop and Illustrator. Honestly, I prefer Illustrator for the curvature tool because of the way it treats the straight lines. The single click versus the double click is the main difference, which I will show you guys once we get to that lesson. But we're almost done here. I want to do this right. See, sometimes it's easier just to go over and come back. And I actually find, because I'm right-handed, it's easier for me to move right to left than it is for me to try to move left to right. My hand just wants to do that more naturally. I have a tracking ball here too, but in full disclosure, I really don't use it. I got it and I thought I would use it all the time. And I was trying to force myself to use it for a while, because sometimes it takes a while to get used to something new, but I just never really kind of latched onto it. Some designers, that's all they use. So I guess it just depends, personal preference. But here we go. I am almost done. And I don't know how much time we've taken, but I guarantee you it hasn't been an hour. In fact, it couldn't be an hour because we've only been on for 30 minutes. So you have to remember, I'm zoomed in really tight too. Sometimes if you leave a pixel or two, it's not that big a deal. But again, I try to get it perfect. You know that wherever the color is vibrant, that's the most important spots, because people are always going to notice the eyes, and they're always going to notice the color pops, the transitions, the contrast, if you will. So those are the places to be the most particular, right? Where that green separates right there, where the white meets the green. And so now I actually am even going to zoom in real tight. You start seeing those boxes, that's the pixel level. So usually when I'm that close in, I'm just going to go to 0.1 and clean that out. And again, that's some of the difference between a professional job and a non-professional job, is the level of finishing details. This is not nearly as tight as it would be as if I was doing it for client work. But since I'm just doing this for this class, I'm going to leave a little bit that I would clean up just so we can move on to the next lesson. We've got his hair there. Not everybody like is bald like me. Okay, so let's see how we did. So there we go. Okay, so now what do I do to finish that off? If I'm finishing off the project, because I really like that. I just want to see it without. I actually like that better. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that dark. So now what do I do? I'm gonna drop in my logo. Okay, I'm gonna hold down. Actually, I'm not gonna do that because I'm in Photoshop. I was gonna say I was gonna hold down the Shift key, but I don't need to do that. You do that in Illustrator, so it links the ratio X and Y together, but in Photoshop, you just make sure it's linked. Okay, so I got that. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do, this is just one of my things. This is how I style. So I typically like to trim out my, imagery with a box. If you've been following me at all, you know that already. But for those of you who are not familiar with my design work, that is what I do. So I come in and set that, and then I actually do another one, which a lot of times is very subtle. And in Photoshop, it works better if you just set the box and then come in and make the change. And I typically go a third to a half on the interior one. Now I'm going to zoom in, and you want to check all four corners, okay? So first things first, I want to come up here and I want to change to the object tool. And now I want to just click on a point and I want to unlink the layers. So now I'm dragging independently X and Y. And you can actually do that with both boxes, so you don't have to come back and do everything twice, although you can if you want. It's up to you. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make sure that this is equal all the way around, right? You can actually, if you want to, you can set guidelines. I used to set guidelines all the time when I was new. And to set a guideline, just go ahead and click up here, and I don't have them turned on. I have to I have to actually turn them on. Sorry guys, I don't have them on. Okay, so there we're set. Okay, so now the last thing I want to do is I want to finish this location because I dropped it about where I wanted it to be. But now that I've got my box set, I just want to make sure. I typically am just trying to make sure that it's equidistant from both. So if I'm going to do that, I can move it out as far as I want. I don't like to be obnoxious with it, but something like that, right? And it's done. And again, I put it here as opposed to down here or over here because the action is over on the left-hand side. So to balance out the photograph, I've got it up here. I could put it here, but then it would be bottom heavy, right? But so by putting it here, I've got basically like this line going at a 45-degree angle across. And so that's it. That's the drawing. So now that I've got that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it, and I'll post this in the comments. So where do I save? I have a couple different things for my photographs that I've taken. They're all in here. So this was my Las Vegas trip, and this is my edits, and then this is a haymaker. Okay, so that's the name of the file. And then once that saves, and it's a 6x4, so it's relatively small, which is nice. But I also need to save it as a JPEG because you can't share Photoshop files on social media. Okay, so now I will come in. Let's see if I can do that. I think I can. Oh no, I can't share. I can't share it. Oh, okay. Well, I'll share that. I'll share that later. Once once the show's over, I'll share it. But anyways, so that's it. I hope. Oop, wrong thing. Hope you guys like it. That's the mask. So just in review, we started with this photo here, okay, and we duplicated the layer so that you have two, and then I took the second layer, made the bottom layer, made it black and white. Okay, turn that off. So I made it black and white. Then you create the mask, and we drew it in with black ink. And anywhere here where it's black, I can see through to the bottom layer. Then to finish it up, we added our logo and my custom frame, and that'll be on Instagram as soon as the show's over. Okay, it's a good photo. So there you go. That's how you use um, that's how you use Photoshop. Hang on a second, I'm gonna just talk to you guys for a second. So that's how you use Photoshop masks. You don't use masks in Illustrator. Masks is a Photoshop tool. Photoshop, editing photos. Illustrator, creating graphics from scratch. So that's why the mask is different. But there are a lot of the tools in Adobe that are in all of their programs, frankly, right? The Adobe toolbox. So mask is one of the most important tools. Again, it's non-destructive, which is cool because it can help you from having to start over and recreate the wheel, right? So if someone says, "Oh, I don't like that," and you erased it, then you have to take the original and start over. That's no fun. And they did that way too many times, which is why I learned how to do masks. Okay, so now we're going to go into Illustrator. In Illustrator, in the old days, they didn't have this thing called the curvature pen tool. They just had the pen tool. And the pen tool, it's like you need it, but you hate it. And when they created this curvature tool, it's made life way, way better. And then there's another thing called the shape builder tool. And really, between the shape builder tool and the curvature pen tool, you can create any object you want, like anything. I could rebuild fonts. I can create, letters, numbers, all kinds of stuff. So that's what I'm going to spend the rest of the time. The Photoshop lesson took a little bit longer than I wanted to, probably because I got off track. So I'm probably going to go over the hour, just so you guys know, but that's okay. I can actually go up to 4 hours if I want. So I'm going to go long, just so you know, but let's get into Illustrator. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know and I'll answer them. Again, usually I'm monitoring the comments like on the spot. We haven't had that many comments come in. In fact, I haven't had any questions yet. So I don't know if I'm way over your guys' head or whatever, but let me know. And if you like watching me design, I'm thinking about maybe just doing some more of that where I do like watch Ira design show once a week. I don't know if people would be interested in that or not. My clients tend to like me they like to watch me work when they can, like I was doing. In fact, I'm going to show it here on the screen. So let me get that off of there because that was weird. All right, so bye Photoshop. Yes. Okay. Oh, that was what I wanted to show you. Okay, so this is Illustrator. So this is some of the work that I've done in Illustrator. I was showing in the comments this one. So I'm just going to open this up. How did I get here? What is it that I did to create this image that I made? Oh, I opened a JPEG file. I'm like, why is that opening up that way? Well, it's not open that one. Let's open the actual design file itself because that'll be more helpful. So Bowman Digital Media, and that's my buddy. Oh, I'm in Project Help Hero. That's why I'm like, what? Okay, so Haymaker Christensen. There we go. Okay, so here's the actual design file itself. So to create this thing, the very first thing that I did is I created what's called a template layer. And if you've never worked in Illustrator, or if you're new to Illustrator and you're trying to recreate something that you have a photograph of, then these template layers are amazing. Because what happens is if I don't want this as a template layer, I can actually convert it, right? You can say template layer off and watch what happens. See how that got dark all of a sudden? So what the template layer does, it allows you to dim it down, and you can actually set it. The default is 50%, but you can change it to whatever you want. So if you want like 30% or 60% or whatever, depending on, it's just, how much you want to see of it. But the template layer is designed by default to, sit there underneath so that you can retrace over the top of it. You want to recreate. That was its expressed purpose of a template layer. So to place a file in Photoshop and Illustrator, it's exactly the same. Just hit place, find the file, and set it down. Okay, so that's what I've done. Then once you've set it down, you can double click on this thing and just change it to template. And then right here, dim to image. Again, this is where you could set it to anything you want. 60%, 30%, 33%, 66%. The default is 50. I've just always left it there. But, every once in a while I do turn it up or down. But for the most part, I just use 50%. Okay. So what do I do? Now it's locked that layer. So anything I do, I'm not going to do on that. I really can't do anything. In fact, if you look, it says, draw, and it's got a little, you can't symbol there, icon. So the next thing that I did was I just created a new layer. If you want to do that, then you just hit this create new sub layer or create layer, depending on what you want to do. I wanted to create a layer. So I did that. Then what did I do? Well, then I had to start drawing. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm actually going to turn this layer off for a second so you can see it. So I started to just trace over the top the different shapes. And when you put them all together, there's the whole logo. Okay. So now let me turn that on. See what I did? I just covered up everything that was white thread, because that's on you can't really tell, but it's on a hoodie. And then I created these vectors. Now I could do pretty much whatever I want with this now. I can change the colors. I could fill in the colors. Like if I wanted to fill this guy right here, what I could do is pick my shape builder tool, and I've got to have, well, let me just do it right. So with the shape builder tool, the first thing you have to do is you have to highlight everything, okay? Because otherwise it doesn't know what you're talking about. But now that I have that, I can go to the shape builder tool. If I set a color here, which I don't have a color set, so I'm actually getting ahead of myself. So I can come here and say I want to use red, okay? So there's red. Look at that. It filled it all in. But what if I didn't want everything filled in, like right there? I don't want that filled in. So go to my shape builder tool, which is right there, and hold down the Alt key, boop, and now that part's cleared out. And then hold down the Alt key, and that part's cleared out. Any place else right there. And I think that's it. Okay, so now I'm done. So click that, boom, and that's done. See, that's simple because it's vector file. So that's the power of the shape builder tool. Like really, really simple. That's what you can do with it. Quick and easy lesson. Okay, any questions about the shape builder tool? Let me know. I'm going to show you a little bit more how it works in just a second. Now, beyond that file, some of the other files that I've been working on recently, I did one for Joe the Finance Guy, and it was really cool because Joe the Finance Guy is a business page on LinkedIn. They just exceeded 2,000 followers. I think it was on Saturday. And so what did I do? I created this as a way to say, hey, congratulations, Joe. That's pretty cool. By the way, if you hit Control-0, it'll go to the center of your drawings. That's just a hotkey if you guys don't know that on Illustrator. Okay. So, I just took a photo I had of him. I actually had made this a PNG file using a layer mask, like I just showed you before, his logo. And then I created the rest from scratch. So how did I do it? Like if you wanted to recreate this file, what's involved in it? There's not too many steps, but I placed his logo, I placed the image of him, and then I created everything else. So like each layer something's on, right? Like this is the text layer going around the circle. And I don't know what that is actually. I can't really see. Okay, so there's the thank you for the 2,000 followers. And this is the inside, what they call the ellipse. And this is the outside of what they call the ellipse. They're circles in this case because they're perfectly round. All right. So anyways, that's one of the files. Now, another one that I did that was kind of similar, but as a logo, was for Goodwill, Global Goodwill Ambassadors. And I created for their school this logo. So kind of the same concepts, a little bit different here because we took the writing and we flipped it around. So you've got it going this way and then going that way, as opposed to going the same way all the way around. And then we've got a different font, and I created a couple different lines, and I rounded the end caps. So I just want to show you guys how to use the curvature tool. As you can see, there's a lot of curves in design. And if I wanted to, now in this case, I actually used a font, but sometimes we want to create a font, and you can do all of that with the curvature tool. So I don't know if anybody's watching. If you have like something that you're interested in having me create real quick, like a butterfly, or I don't know, could be anything, a dartboard or skateboard or whatever. If you have something you want me to create, let me know, because otherwise I'm gonna play with it and do something. So the very first thing you do when you're coming into your Illustrator and you're going to create from scratch is you need to pick your size. I typically by default go 12 by 12 as my starter, because again, it's a vector image, so it really doesn't matter. I just did a thing for Project Help You Grow. Back to here, I'll open that. I'll show you. So I just created this Project Help You Grow. There we go. And there it is. Okay, so I created this last night for an advertisement that's coming up in the Global Goodwill Ambassadors magazine. Their e-magazine comes out once a month. So I created this need a job, free job search assistance for everyone around the world, projecthelpyougrow.com. And then there's me because, well, it's my website. So Project Help You Grow, if you don't know, is my philanthropy. It's something I do to help job seekers everywhere. I help them find work, and I do it for free. So anyways, that ad will be on display in the Global Goodwill Ambassadors magazine coming up here in just a few weeks. So I created this here in Illustrator. So that's why I did 8.5 by 11, because that's the size of the ad. So typically when I'm starting from scratch, I'll go 12 by 12, unless I know, if the application calls for a 3 by 5 or 4.25 or whatever, then I'll do that, right? But as you can see, in most cases, I go with the 12 by 12. Like the 1500 by 300 was a thing I did for Pan Nose. So, I mean, typically 9 out of 10 times I'm doing 12 by 12 just as my starter. I like blocks and circles because it fits most things. Okay. So the very first thing that I'm going to do, since I'm going to show you how to use the curvature tool, okay, which is this guy right here. So I'm going to just put a color in there just so we have something. If you're not familiar with your hex colors, I suggest you at least learn black and white. White is F, 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 F. So it's 6 Fs. If you want black, it's 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit enter, and all of a sudden it's magic. It's black. Okay. So this outline color, for some reason, is not black. So I'm just going to set it to black so that it matches. And then once we're done with this, first lesson, then I'll explain the difference if you guys are not familiar with the difference between the stroke and the fill. Okay. So sorry about that. Okay, curvature tool. So since my wife just walked in the door, we're gonna make a heart. Okay. So to start a heart, I have to have a curve. So I'm gonna start with a point, and I'm gonna go to the middle, and then I'm gonna come about like that. Now I'm gonna go around. So now I'm gonna go from here, and I'm just gonna come up, and then go. Oh my goodness, that totally messed it up, Ira. Don't worry about that. Main problem with curvature tool is people like to freak out, and there's no need to freak out. Now, hearts are straight on the bottom. Okay, so see, I just straighten that out. Okay, that doesn't look good, Ira. Oh, I know, it's okay, but look, it's starting to take shape. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dot here and a dot there. These dots are called anchor points. Now, some reason that got straight, and I don't want it to be straight. I want all this to be curved, and I want this to be curved. This one I want straight, and that one I want straight. Now, I found that typically on those, I want to make those about the same. So why is that like being a pain in the butt? I don't know. It's too tall. Now, if I want to pull this in, I can just add another one and pull it in. Now, if you want it to be perfect, I actually could have drawn half of it and then copied it and had it what they call reflect. But I want to teach you guys how to use this tool. So let me zoom in a little bit. See how this one's taller than that one? That doesn't look right. So I want to pull that down. And I'll pull that over, and now I need to pull that in. And so there you go, right? So that's the basics on a curvature tool. Now that's rounded, so I'm going to square that up. See how that makes that look much better. Now you go, Ira, you're talking about your wife. We don't want to have a black heart for your wife. Although my wife might tell you my heart bleeds silver and black. Yeah, baby. All right. So now I'm going to change that heart to red. Okay. So, and now I've got this red heart with this black outline, and there's this one little spot I don't like, but that's okay. We're going to keep moving for the lesson. Now, if you don't want the stroke, that's the outline, you can actually turn it off. Okay. And now I had to have it selected first. Okay. So now it's off. But what if you liked it? You didn't want to turn it off. What if you actually wanted to turn it up? It's like, all right, it's cool, but it's too thin. All right, we can change that. So get your stroke. And how big do you want to make it? You can make it as big as you like. Okay. So that's the very basics. So if I wanted to write, I love you, I could actually type it, of course. I mean, that's what I would do, right? I you, right? And then you say, Ira, I can't see it. What are you doing? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit this guy and I'm just going to go up. Now, the one thing about this program, which is kind of cool, so typically I'll go in like quantities of 10, so 150, 160, whatever. But like you say, I kind of like it, but I want like more space between these letters, or I want no space between those letters. It's usually one or the other. So you can set the width too. Like if I wanted to fill that spot up, boop, I went too far because I lost the U, right? So you could do that. Now that's the easiest way to do it. But sometimes we want to do some fun stuff with letters. Like we want to like overlap them and then have a little gap between them. All kinds of different things. So when you're going to do that, again, you can come back to your curvature tool, and we can actually create these things. Now, since this is what we call sans serif font, for this one, for the I and the L, you actually could just use your box to recreate. Like you don't need the curvature tool for that. Oops. It went to gradient. I don't know why. I just did. I clicked on something by mistake. Okay. So gradient's another lesson. So there's your I, right? But for practice, if you're not used to this tool, what I suggest you do instead of using that, grab this curvature tool and set your points. Remember, double click for straight. Now here's a lesson. Hold down the shift key when you do this stuff, and it'll draw your points at 45 degree, or yeah, not 45 degree angles. I think it's 15. So it won't let you set it down in certain spots because it's trying to go straight. Okay. So that'll help you out. So your shift key can be your best friend. So anyways, straight, double click, curve, single click. So if you want it straight, single click, or I'm sorry, double click. Okay. Now, what about this? I need to complete it by double clicking on it. But if I didn't want to do that, it's always going to try to complete it. But if I didn't want to do that, I'm just going to make another one real quick. And that's got to be double, double, double. Okay. If I want out here, I could just hit escape. But now I don't have a completed path. And so it's always going to be like, what are you doing here? I want to know the finish. So I'm going to finish it out. Okay. So now that's not right because that's too tall. So now I can just, as long as I have the curvature tool pen selected, I can grab the anchor point and I can move it. I can go out, I can go up, I can go down. So, but now what this allows me to do is it allows me to add some character that I wasn't able to do with just that. So I could stroke this and have that same outline. That I could definitely do. But let's say I wanted to make the inside a little bit, just different. See now, delete that one. Instead of the I love you, I can have that. And you go, oh, I kind of like it, but I think it should be the other way. Totally fine, right? So I'm going to delete this one. Okay. So now I'm making my own font is where I'm getting here. Okay. So I could do the same thing with the L. Now, if you really like this, you could just hit Control C and V and create yourself a new one, which is what I would do if I was going to redo this. So I'm just going to show you some real world stuff. Okay. And then you go, Ira, that one's too thick. I completely agree. So I'm going to select my curvature tool. And I'm going to bring this guy in. I'm going to bring this guy in so it's smaller. And I want to drag it over. Now, here again, I don't want this. I'm going to show you something. This is really picky. I'm going to zoom in. I really don't want to have that there. So what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do. I could either do that or that, but I think I want to do it something like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this. Here, I'm going to back up just a little bit. And I'm going to zoom back in. I'm going to take my object select tool and I want to select not that, this and this. Okay. So I've got that L selected. Now I'm going to grab my shape builder tool and I'm going to draw a line through these things. Did you see what I just did? I don't know if I was close enough. Let me come in even tighter. Okay, I've got both the L's, the two different shapes of the L's I've got highlighted. I'm going to take this guy right here, the shape builder tool, and I'm going to draw through, and that's going to make all of it one piece. And so it got rid of the interior stroke because now it only strokes the outside. Okay. And when I zoom back out, now I've got an L. Okay. So this is how we recreate or create our own font. Now for the O, I don't know, maybe I want to make it a heart. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? Just spitballing here anyways. So take that, Control C, Control V, bring that down. Oop, it's way too big. So let me hold down the Shift key and up, and that does the X and the Y together. And I go, yep, that's about the right size there. Okay. And there we go. Now for this one, again, if I want to use this as my court, which I probably would because, fonts, you want to have similarities. So I'm going to take this guy. Now, I think this one should actually be the way I had it originally. So I'm going to take that heavy. And then now this one, if you come over to Object, you can hit Reflect. And if I hit this one, which I want, and hit OK, see what it just did? It did it, but it didn't help me because it did it, but it didn't make a copy. So when you do it, you want to actually make a copy of it. So you hit this, okay, and then you just move them. Now, I do the same thing again. I'm over here, and I've got to put these so they make sense, but now I've got a problem. What's my problem? See that? I think that's going to look stupid, honestly. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come in here with my shape tool, and I'm going to I could move this, but I'm actually just going to create my own little deal here. So I basically just want to make a V. Okay. It's not big enough. That's okay. I'm showing you guys this for a reason because, this is the kind of stuff that you really will be doing. If you want to be in my world, this is welcome to my world. So now you could come over if you want to do that. Now you got to go, okay, grab my curvature tool, which is right there. Grab my dots, which the dots are called anchor points again. For those of you who are not sure, I want to start lining this up a little bit. So it's trying to make a second point there, which I really didn't want to do. So what I can do here is just do that and then hit delete, and it takes that out. Okay. So sometimes you just have to know how to manipulate everything. So once I've got that the way I want it, which that's pretty darn good. Now again, I need to take my object tool and highlight everything. So now it's all highlighted. I'm going to take my shape builder tool, which is right here. I'm going to drag these things. So everything's highlighted. And then this, it did not connect them. And so this is where sometimes what you have to do is actually get your line tool and just make a line where they intersect. Okay. And then go ahead again and highlight everything. Got everything highlighted. Go back to my shape tool. Okay. And connect it. Just draw a line so everything's connected. Now, what did it do? Because my fill for some reason went away, which I didn't want. So I'm going to hit edit undo. Okay. So sometimes you just got to be careful, right? What are you merging? So I want to merge, and this isn't intersecting all the points, which is part of the problem. That should do it, but let's find out. I think I got it. We'll see. Illustrator can be a cruel tool if you don't know what you're doing or if you're learning. Okay, so again, it's taking that out. I don't like that. I don't know why it keeps doing that, but I don't like it. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure that that fill is back to black. Black, thank you, not white. All right, okay, so, okay. Now, if I hold, remember the Alt key, that turns to a minus, and I can take things away, but see, it still thinks that that's the end because I haven't intersected anything in the right spot. So I've actually not done myself a favor with that line. So I'm going to get rid of that, start over. So I just click Alt and it changes from a plus to a minus, okay? But I need to add something that intersects right here. So I need a line that just goes, not the magic stick, okay? I just need that. Now I need to move this point over, okay? Now it'll work. Okay, just put the black back in. Okay, now see how that went away? Now the only thing I don't like now is that red is really not in the right spot. See how that's not straight? So where'd we go? Shift bar. Okay, it's right there. So I'm gonna zoom in right there. I can fix it. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna grab my curvature pen tool. I'm gonna come into those points and I'm gonna scoot them over. I have to be zoomed in close enough to do it though. Again, this is advanced stuff, I guess. But this is a real world deal. If it's moving too slow, you can do that. But okay. Oops. I went too far down. Okay, here's my trouble spot, right? So I can take this and pull it over. And take this and pull it over. Now, you see what this is? This is the pen tool. I can move it or move it, and I need to fill in that spot. Okay, now it's full. Now I'm good, except for that little guy right there doesn't love me. But watch what happens when I zoom out. This is where being a perfectionist is a pain in the butt, but in reality, oops, hit escape, and hit undo, edit undo, okay, and then get off of that. No one will ever see that little dot. I mean, it's there. I know it's there, but no one will see it. Okay, so there's my V. Now, for time's sake, I think we're going to call it only because we're an hour and 10 in, but you can, I hope from this you can see the power of the curvature tool and the shape builder tool in Illustrator. Because once you master these, again, I can build, there's nothing I can't build, right? We're zoomed out kind of far now. So it's, but you know what I mean? So a heart, rebuilding letters, anything that you want, the sky's the limit to what you can build. You can put together simple graphics, or you can build a logo. You can make, you know, infographics. You can recreate logos that were a photo. Remember, this was originally this was a photo, right? And we redrew it, and then we filled it in with the color. I'm actually going to turn that off and hit no because I don't want to save it. So if I was to open that thing back up, remember it was just a trace. But that's the idea. So if you have any questions, if you're struggling with mask layers in Photoshop, if you're struggling with, creating curves and putting objects together in Illustrator, if you're trying to be a designer, like if you're trying to improve your graphic design skills, you really do need to master the mask and the curvature tool and the object, what they call the shape builder tool. Those three, of all the things that I use in the design programs, those three make the most difference. So if you watched all this and you go, not for me, look, I completely understand. I probably couldn't do what you do for a living either. So that's okay. That's why, companies like Bowman Digital Media exist. We can make this stuff for you so that you don't have to waste your time. But honestly, I love it. It's a lot of fun. I've been blessed to make a lot of money at it this year with Bowman Digital Media, and I'm looking forward to what happens in our second year, which we're about to start. So Bowman Digital Media was launched officially June 9th of 2020. So we're getting very close to our first year birthday, and I'm excited about that. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions, you can send me a direct message. I will be back next week. Don't know what the show's going to be about yet. Don't know if I'm going to bring on guests again yet, or if I'm still in teacher mode. I'm enjoying doing the lessons. Tony Taylor, I love it. He said he's going to purchase Illustrator today. Yeah, Illustrator is a good tool. I use the just in full disclosure, I use the Adobe Cloud services. It's a SaaS, so you can pay like $20 a month or $40 a month, something like that, and get access to the programs that way. And that's what I do. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Saludos to you as well. Lourdes, it was very nice having you here. You were with me the whole time, so appreciate that. Hello to Only and Leonila. I think I probably said that wrong, but Neela is easier for me. But anyways, I'm glad to give you the refresher. That's what was the idea for those of you who are working in Illustrator every day. This obviously these lessons weren't for you, but a lot of people struggle with the pen tool. They struggle with a mask, the concept of the mask, and so they use the eraser and they're destroying or using destructive techniques. So hopefully today's lessons will help you elevate your graphic skills and allow you to do more faster, right? And that is again the point. So if you're joining late and you didn't see, we created in Photoshop, we created it's my signature style. It's hybrid colors. So what I do is I use a mask layer. And hang on just a second. I'm going to share my screen one more time before we go. For those of you who are in late, so you can see what we did earlier. This is the photo that we edited earlier. So we started with the base layer of that. And then we, first we made a copy. Then we took the saturation level down and made it black and white. And then we created the copy with a mask. And then we added the logo and we added the frame. And that was the finished product. And we did that all here in the beginning of the show. So, between the masking layers and the shape builder tool and the pen curvature tool, again, you can do just about anything you want in the design space. So my name is Ira Bowman. Thank you so much for joining the show today. I look forward to seeing you again next Monday and every Monday. 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern, or you can time adjust for wherever you are. Have a great day. If I can help you with any of your design needs, you can always reach out to me at bowmandigitalmedia.com. I will put that on the screen here. I have it somewhere. I think I do. Yeah, there it is. All right. So if you're looking for me, you can find me at bowmandigitalmedia.com. What do we do at Bowman Digital Media.com? We have 6 things really that we offer. We offer social media management for businesses. We do website development for anybody, personal or business. We do graphic design. That's what we're focusing on today. We do photography, videography, and search engine optimization. That's what we do at Bowman Digital Media. I am not a one-man band anymore. Started the business by myself, but my wife has since joined the team. So it's me and my wife, and our daughter is our intern. And then we have Sabrina on the team as a virtual assistant. We have Mariella, who helps us with our security and risk. And then I have some other folks that are on the team, W9, that help in a contractor role. So that's the team. It's a lot of fun. We're doing good things. If you need help, reach out. We're happy to talk to you about it. Have a great day, everybody.
BowmanDigitalMedia.com.